All right, so let's keep this one short and sweet.
Release the Kraken!
What's up, and welcome to Absolute Sitter. I am your host, Mac, and I want to thank you for checking out my content. This one is going to be a quick match review of what I noticed in our debut match against Crystal Palace. Now, there are some positives, and I wouldn't call them negatives, but I would say maybe some things to look out for. So first, let's start with those maybe not so negatives, but just things to keep an eye on. And just get those out of the way so we can get to the positives. First things first, I don't know if this was Chelsea being dominant or if this was just Crystal Palace not being prepared for the season. It could be a little bit of both, but Chelsea were all over them. You would think that Crystal Palace was the team that played Wednesday, especially to 128 minutes with a dramatic penalty shootout, but it was Chelsea that just looked the more energized of the sides. I'm not sure how to take that. Like I said, is this Chelsea just showing their dominance and showing how ready they are for the Premier League? Or was this Crystal Palace showing that they're just not as ready as maybe they thought? First player I want to touch on, Marcos Alonso. Now, this guy divides a lot of opinion. There are a lot of Chelsea fans that have been asking for this guy to leave, been saying things like they will offer him a ride. They've been looking for upgrades on Marcos Alonso for the longest time. At some point, even Emerson Palmieri was supposed to be this person that was finally going to get Marcos Alonso out of the lineup. To those fans, I respectfully say, please, can we cut the shit now? Can we cut it out? Listen, Marcos Alonso, for the foreseeable future, is here to stay. I'm not saying he's going to start every game. I'm not saying that Ben Chilwell should get used to riding the bench. I do see the Chelsea setup being very, very set up for Ben Chilwell to excel. But there are going to be games that tactically it makes more sense for Marcos Alonso. We have to be able to understand that Marcos Alonso is an asset to the offense. Is he some great defensive mastermind, masterclass, world-class player? No, but we don't need that against every opponent. Do we need height sometimes? Do we need his threat, especially in a game where we're not playing Lukaku? Yes. So please, he is an asset. He is something that we can tactically use. Let's get over this. Especially when you see him scoring goals like today. I just don't understand how you can be so adamantly against this guy. Yes, in certain cases in the past, he can be blamed for certain goals. But, hey, we know what Marcos Alonso does. We know what he's good for. We know how the managers are supposed to use him. So, let's move on from that. So, a little bit of tough love for Christian Pulisic here, if I'm being hypercritical. Christian Pulisic took his goal well. He was Johnny on the spot, made sure that what could have been a near miss from Timo Werner turned into a goal. But he really could have had his way in this game. If I'm pushing it, could have had a brace, especially off the header. And even in some cases looked like he could have made himself into a hat-trick hero today. That's a positive and a negative, obviously, because we need to be finishing our chances. But he looks lively. He looks up for it this season. Let's hope that he stays injury-free and can continue this. And to be fair, the attacking mid looks stacked with a lot of competition. The only player I think that's going to be nailed on to always be in the starting 11 as long as he's fit is Mason Mount. I was a little worried about Mason Mount maybe getting too much minutes, especially because I see how careful the manager is being with Reece James and Thiago Silva. Obviously, Mason Mount is not the same age as Thiago Silva, but Mason Mount looked lively throughout the game. Next is the aforementioned Timo Werner. Caveat, Timo Werner, I'm pulling for Timo Werner to be a success at Chelsea. But I do see signs here. There were points at the beginning that it seemed like we were swarming all over Crystal Palace and was doing everything but scoring. And Timo Werner was very much a part of that. But you can see also Timo Werner hurting them with the pace, pulling people out of place, and causing a lot of problems. And the chances that he was getting weren't highlighted, mostly because Chelsea still were so dominant and still ended up winning this game 3-0. But they weren't highlight misses. They were more near chances and last-ditch efforts by Crystal Palace to keep themselves in the game. You can only think that this is only going to get magnetized and will eventually lead to goals for Timo Werner when the big man Romelu Lukaku is playing alongside him. Now, to the player everybody wants to talk about, and in some cases, everybody is talking about, Trevor Chalobah. Now, you have to think about this, guys. Let me set the scene for those who are not in the know. Chalobah has been at the club since about 8 or 9. He is now breaking through that glass ceiling, that unachievable goal of going from the academy to the first team. Signs are pointing there, at least. Signs are pointing there. I am going to be cautiously optimistic about this and not set my expectations way too high, only to be disappointed if he does end up on loan in January or something like that. His older brother was at the club, got sold to Watford. That is always, as a little brother, got to be a sign that maybe this Chelsea first team is that unachievable goal. But signs are positive. This is a guy who has now started, as our season is very young, but 2 of our most important games. Our first home game for the Premier League start with the fans back in the stands, and also the Super Cup. And he was integral in both victories. Starting across from him, his opposite number, is Marcus Gehe, who everybody thought was next in line to be the next John Terry. But that's not how football works. And quick note for Mark Gehe, this was just not the game to kind of judge him on. They got swarmed, but it wasn't any individual errors on his part. Hopefully, even though he's no longer our player, I'd like to see him excel in his career. So let's hope that Crystal Palace's day today is not a repeat every game for the season, and that we'll get to see him shine. But today was definitely Trevor Chalobah's day. Trevor Chalobah not only found himself on the score sheet in an eerily similar fashion to another one of our youth academy players who seemed to be destined for glory, which is Tomori. And that's why I say we got to watch our optimism here, cautiously optimistic, because everything seemed to be going in the right direction for Tomori. And as much as his career is still on a trajectory path of going upward, we can see he's now at AC Milan. So things change in football. But anyway, let's get all the way out of that negative thinking and get into the game. Chalobah does get his debut in this game, ends up not only slowly working himself into top fitness, but also working himself into the manager's thinking as a player that was totally unexpected. He looks solid in defense. He also, you can understand why he could maybe even move to DM with just his calmness on the ball, his understanding of when to just take the simple option. And in fairness, 2 things you got some research to go do. Watch his interview after the game and watch his reaction to the goal. It tells the story of a young man who is coming from the youth setup and finally achieving his goals of making it into the senior team. And not only just making it into the senior team. This isn't a guy just sitting on a bench. This is a guy excelling. That's probably even has Chelsea wondering, do they really need to go for that center back? So, all in all, a very positive day for Chelsea. Again, couple caveats. I'm not quite sure if this was Crystal Palace not being prepared or Chelsea just being up for it, or maybe just a little bit of both. But regardless, you can't start the Premier League off better than Chelsea did today, with a clean sheet and everybody pretty much looking positive that got on the field. That's how Thomas Tuchel had to look at like 40 odd players for even one or two of them to make it through the ranks is got to be exceptional. I'm not sure where Loftus-Cheek is going to get into this game right now. To those who don't know, I'm going to just quickly cover this story. Loftus-Cheek was not only not in the match day because maybe... Anyway, guys, that's my match review. Comment below, let me know what you guys noticed, what you saw, and what you think of how Chelsea started their Premier League campaign today. Until the next one, don't get caught in front of goal and miss an absolute sitter.